In the year 1130 of the Common Era, when the minarets of Damascus pierced the desert sky and caravans brought treasures from distant lands, there lived a woman whose beauty was spoken of in whispers, not with admiration, with warning. This is her story. In 1130 AD, the streets of Damascus hummed with the commerce of silk merchants and spice traders, where fortunes rose and fell with the caravans from distant lands. Among the sprawling courtyards and fountains of the wealthy quarter lived Khatun Zumurrud, a woman whose beauty was spoken of in whispers, not with admiration, with warning. She had been widowed young, her elderly husband leaving her a considerable estate and the freedom that few women of her station possessed. With emerald green eyes that gave her the name Zumurrud, emerald in Arabic, she moved through Damascus society like a jeweled serpent through tall grass, captivating and dangerous in equal measure. Her hunting ground was the majlis, the reception halls where Damascus's elite gathered. There she would identify her prey with practiced precision. Wealthy merchants new to the city, minor officials with access to contracts, younger sons of noble families desperate to prove themselves. She never chose the strongest or the wisest, only those with resources and vulnerability in equal measure. First came the enchantment. Zumurrud possessed an uncanny ability to mirror whoever sat before her. To the lonely trader from Aleppo, she became the understanding confidant he had never found. To the ambitious young Qadi, she transformed into the supportive partner who believed in his destined greatness. She would listen with those remarkable eyes fixed upon them, asking questions that made each man feel truly seen for the first time in his life. "You understand me as no one ever has," they would tell her, not realizing she had simply reflected their own words back to them, polished to perfection. The courtship was always breathtaking. Zumurrud would arrange for her suitor to accidentally rescue her from a fabricated difficulty, a supposedly aggressive merchant, a threatening servant she had secretly paid. She would gaze at him with gratitude and dawning admiration, making him feel like the hero of an epic tale. Gifts would flow from her household to his, delicacies prepared by her kitchen, embroidered cloths, small gestures that seemed thoughtful rather than extravagant. By the time the marriage negotiations began, each man believed he had found paradise on earth. The transformation came gradually, like dusk stealing the light from day. After the marriage, Zumurrud would begin to withdraw the warmth that had drawn her husband close. A comment here about his manners at dinner, a slight there about how her first husband had been more refined. The criticism was never direct enough to confront, but constant enough to burrow beneath the skin. "I only mention it because I care for you so deeply. Surely you want to be the best version of yourself." She had a gift for isolating her victims. His friends became poor influences or beneath his station now that he had married into her household. His family was provincial or unable to understand the sophistications of Damascus society. When relatives visited, Zumurrud would be all charm and grace, then privately criticize them until her husband felt ashamed of his own blood. "Your brother stared at the serving girl in such a vulgar way. I hope you don't share such base inclinations." The financial entanglement came next, woven so skillfully that each husband failed to see the trap until it had closed. She would suggest investments in caravans that mysteriously failed, partnerships with merchants who turned out to be her confederates. Her household expenses would swell, requiring contributions from his purse. Loans would be arranged with terms that slowly transferred his property to her name. When her husbands began to question, she deployed her arsenal of manipulation with surgical precision. Tears came easily to those emerald eyes. "After all I've done for you, after I opened my home and my heart, you accuse me of such things?" If tears failed, rage would follow, screaming servants, thrown pottery, threats to expose his inadequacies to all of Damascus. And always, afterward, the reconciliation. Sweet words, gentle touches, the promise that things would return to how they were in those golden early days. They never did. By the time each husband understood what had been done to him, he had often lost half his fortune and all of his spirit. Some died of mysterious illnesses, their property passing to the grieving widow. Others simply disappeared into the anonymity of other cities, broken men fleeing the jeweled serpent who had consumed them from within. Zumurrud's household knew the truth. Her servants watched the cycle repeat with each new husband, saw the calculation behind those emerald eyes, but they were bound to her by fear and complicity, and the generous wages she paid from her accumulated wealth bought their silence. In the women's baths, mothers warned their sons to stay clear of the beautiful widow, but young men, intoxicated by her attention, never believed the warnings. Each was certain that he was different, that what Zumurrud showed him was real, that he alone had found the key to her true heart. On the night of the new moon in 1137, Zumurrud sat in her courtyard, counting the proceeds from her latest husband's liquidated properties. The fountain splashed softly in the darkness, and somewhere in the city, another lonely merchant had just arrived from Mosul, wealthy, recently divorced. She had already made inquiries. Tomorrow, she would arrange to be at the market where he conducted his business. She would wear the green silk that matched her eyes and bring her most trusted maidservant to manufacture an introduction. She would laugh at his stories and touch his arm just so. She would begin again the dance she had perfected, the ancient predatory ritual dressed in romance and charm. The emerald serpent was patient, and Damascus was full of gardens. They say she lives there still, in the stories mothers tell their sons, a warning wrapped in beauty, a lesson written in broken hearts and empty purses. The name Zumurrud, emerald, endures in the whispered warnings of the Damascus bathhouses. Beware the woman with eyes like jewels and a heart like stone. For predators do not change, they only choose new prey. The story of Khatun Zumurrud may be set in 1130s Damascus, but the pattern she embodies is timeless. Across centuries and cultures, predatory narcissists have used the same weapons: charm that mirrors your deepest needs, isolation that severs your support, manipulation that makes you doubt your own reality, and financial entanglement that traps you in place. The emerald-eyed widow of Damascus reminds us that some people view relationships not as partnerships, but as hunting grounds. They do not love, they consume. They do not connect, they collect. And when they are finished, they simply move on to the next garden. The bathhouse mothers knew. The servants knew. The broken men who fled into exile knew, but knowledge means nothing if pride keeps us from listening. Perhaps the greatest lesson from Zumurrud's tale is this: when people show you who they are through their patterns of behavior, believe them. When communities whisper warnings, listen. When something feels wrong beneath the surface beauty, trust that instinct. For predators have always existed, and they always will. But so do the warnings. The question is, will we heed them? Now I want to hear from you. Question 1. Have you ever encountered someone who used these tactics? How did you recognize the pattern, and what helped you break free? Question 2. Why do you think people ignore warnings about predatory individuals even when the evidence is clear? Is it pride, hope, or something else? Question 3. If you were Lila, the servant who witnessed everything, would you have found the courage to speak out? What would it take to break that silence? Question 4. Do you believe these patterns have changed in modern times, or have predatory narcissists simply adapted their methods to contemporary society? Question 5. What warning signs from Zumurrud's playbook do you think are most important for people to recognize today? Share your thoughts, experiences, and reflections in the comments below. Your story might be the warning someone else needs to hear. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think, or remember, or recognize something important, subscribe to this channel for more historical narratives that explore the darker patterns of human nature across cultures and centuries. From medieval predators to ancient manipulators, from cautionary tales to buried truths, we illuminate the shadows together. And most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you seen these patterns? Do you know someone who needed this warning? What other historical figures or archetypes should we explore? Your engagement keeps these stories alive. Your warnings might save someone from becoming the next victim. Remember, the Emerald Serpent may have lived in Damascus, but her descendants walk among us still. Stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and heed the warnings. Until the next story, may you recognize the serpents before they strike.